Good afternoon. My name is Skylar Hillman, and I'll be ranking all 23 MCU movies, also known as the Infinity Saga. I will start from worst to best, and just a reminder, this is my opinion, and I will definitely have a few unpopular opinions. I also do not think any film in this franchise is necessarily bad, with maybe the exception of the bottom film on this list. With that said, let's get started. Number 23 is Thor the Dark World. This is arguably the worst movie in the MCU. I saw this film a few years ago and was honestly quite disappointed. They had a great actor, Christopher Eccleston, who portrayed the main villain in this movie. Honestly, I can't even remember his name. Goes to show that this movie was so underwhelming, and the main villain was. It just makes me sad because they took the Ninth Doctor and had him portray one of the worst villains in the MCU. The only good parts, in my opinion, were Thor and Loki. Number 22 is The Incredible Hulk. I don't think this is a bad film at all. I think it's an okay film. Still, it's number 22, thus it's not really a good MCU movie for, lacking the connective tissue and not really having any memorable parts. Number 21 is the original Thor. Okay, I saw this film when it first came out and loved it at first. However, after multiple viewings, I found myself thinking that this film is only, mediocre at best. Next in line at number 20 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Okay, I know I can already read the hateful messages on YouTube, but please forgive me. I still love this film, and I think it's a lot of fun. But this film, in my opinion, is very tonally inconsistent. Wasn't a huge fan of Ego either. Overall, I still found this movie to be very fun. Like, come on, who doesn't love Baby Groot dancing at the beginning of this film? Entering at number 19 is the MCU prequel movie. Wow, that cat goose was so funny. Nick Fury and his DH character was done so well. The introduction of the Skrulls was also very interesting. The MCU prequel movie is very good. Oh, wait, what? This is a Captain Marvel movie? You're talking about the overpowered, mundane female superhero who is supposedly emotional? Best parts of Captain Marvel were not even Carol Danvers. And so that's one of the reasons why it's placed so low on this list at number 19. Because, Captain Marvel, she wasn't great, she wasn't bad, she was okay. Number 18 is Iron Man 2. I know this movie is further down the list for most and is often number 23, but I enjoyed this film a lot. Sure, it had a billion different plot lines and was basically the Avengers, the prequel movie, but it was still a lot of fun. Arguably, the worst scene in this entire movie is Tony being drunk and having his own party, and War Machine, Don Cheadle's War Machine, having to fight Tony. Stupid scene, and was a terrible plot device. But I enjoyed the interaction between the characters, and the final fight was still very good. Sure, the main villain was awful, so that's why it's still at the bottom tier of this list. Moving on to number 17 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Arguably one of the funniest MCU movies. Paul Rudd is great as Ant-Man. I laughed a lot during this movie, but for an MCU movie, it lacks any real significant impact, with maybe the exception of the post-credit scene. Still an awesome film. Number 16 is Iron Man 3. I get it. The Mandarin twist was not a good way to close the Iron Man trilogy. However, I found myself enjoying this film a lot. The interaction between Tony and the kid was great. It had great comedic elements, even the Mandarin twist. And it had great character development for Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. But now we are getting in the B-range movies. Number 15 is Avengers Age of Ultron. Sure, this is not the best Avengers movie, but it's still pretty good. Yes, Ultron is basically an evil robotic version of Tony and is somewhat underwhelming, and the movie was, trying to copy the same tonal and comedic points of the original, but it was still a blast. I mean, sure, its tonal and comedic points were not original, but, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And gee, Captain America, you really need to watch your hacking language. At number 14 is Doctor Strange. This movie is arguably one of the most MCU-ish movies in the entire franchise. It follows the formula well, and maybe that's not a bad thing. The movie had amazing effects and had a great lead as Benedict Cumberbatch, aka Dr. Stephen Strange. The villain was lame, and Strange kind of, reminds us of Tony Stark, but a wizard version. Number 13 is Captain America: The First Avenger. Wow, what a great origin story for Steve Rogers. This movie was filled with action and emotion. Felt cheesy at times, and you can tell at some points during the film. And the Red Skull was, he wasn't great, he wasn't bad, he was simply okay. But I would forgive all of those for still being a solid story. Almost to the top 10. Number 12 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Okay, I told you I was going to have some unpopular opinions, but I still love this film and would give it a B+ ranking. Ronin, for me, was sort of underwhelming, and I'm normally not a fan of space opera films, but I have to admit, this movie had me laughing the entire way and is a treasure full of awesome moments. In the end, we are Groot. Number 11 is Black Panther. Okay, I can already envision the angry comments below. Yes, Black Panther is a good movie. I love this film a lot. The reason why it is not quite in the top 10 is because of the poor CGI and lack of action. Great plot and great characters. Arguably has one of the best villains in the MCU, but for a superhero movie, it's not quite there. Cracking my top 10 is Thor Ragnarok. This movie revived the Thor franchise in a jolting manner. It is one of the funniest MCU movies and was beautifully filmed. It looks epic. My only complaint about this film is that it could be a little too funny at times, especially during serious moments, but still, I give this film an A-. Go watch it. Number 9 is Ant-Man. For me, my favorite genre of films are action, adventure, and comedy. Combine all of these with a heist plot and you make a great film. One of the most underrated MCU movies. Paul Rudd is simply awesome in this film. Please watch this movie if you have not. I love this movie. Number 8 is Avengers Civil War. Okay, I'm just kidding. Captain America Civil War. This entry to the Captain America franchise is really great. The epic airport scene and the introduction of Black Panther and Spider-Man were awesome. The conflict between Tony and Steve Rogers was well written and had all of us having to choose between two beloved characters. The only thing about this movie that I did not like is, some of the events occurring, would be highly improbable. Like, how would Zemo know for sure if Tony and Cap would meet the way they did in fight? Still a phenomenal film. I love it a lot. Number 7 is the OG Avengers. Few thought this film was going to be a smashing success as it was, and it worked. Bringing together these characters after introducing most of them in their own films was a lot of fun. Loki is arguably one of the best MCU villains to date. Number 6 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Finally, Marvel Studios was able to incorporate Spider-Man in their universe in Captain America: Civil War. His solo film was a huge success as well. Without a doubt, Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man portrayed on the big screen. I am looking forward to more MCU Spider-Man movies. Hold up. What the Spider-Man is leaving the MCU? What? I'm not crying, you're crying. Number 5 is Captain America the Winter Soldier, the first MCU movie to be directed by the Russo brothers, and they did a fantastic job. With Bucky as the Winter Soldier returning in the spy espionage setting of this movie, this sequel to Captain America is definitely one of the best second installments in the entire franchise. Number 4 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Avengers Endgame was an emotional roller coaster and a phenomenal film. Far From Home is the epilogue to Endgame, and honestly, I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Far From Home is a funny, action-packed movie with a great villain in Mysterio. Hit it. Number 3 is, of course, the first Iron Man, the one who started it all. Robert Downey Jr., we love you 3000. The first MCU movie is definitely the best standalone film in the entire franchise. Given that it was the first, it does a great job at taking a B-level hero and making him into one of the most beloved movie characters of all time. That is why Iron Man begins the top 3 for me of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. My runner-up is, drumroll please, Thanos The Origins. Just kidding. Avengers Infinity War. If you thought the first Avengers movie was an epic crossover movie, Infinity War is that times 100, bringing the Guardians of the Galaxy together with key Avengers and finally giving us more Thanos after waiting a billion years. We were given a great epic film. But of course, the crown goes to Avengers Endgame. This movie had so many Easter eggs and references to previous movies from Winter Soldier, Thor the Dark World, and Guardians 1. This movie made us more nostalgic for those films. Well, maybe with the exception of Thor the Dark World, because, that movie isn't that good. Endgame is arguably one of the best culmination films in all of cinematic history. It brought satisfying conclusions to both Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Tony Stark's Iron Man. Not only that, it has some of the best scenes in the MCU. Cap wielding Thor's hammer and the Avengers Assemble scene alone elevated this movie tremendously. There you have it. This is my ranking for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Please subscribe. Give this video a like, a thumbs up, and please comment below your ranking. Have a good day.